This is News 6 Tonight. Hey, welcome to News 6 Tonight. Glad to have you with us. My word, it has been a very busy news day.
So much breaking news this afternoon.
I mean, my head is still spinning. We've got a lot of stuff still we're trying to figure out with some of these stories. Some of the stories are just crazy and outlandish. And I'm glad to have you with us. Somebody's telling funny jokes back there. My name is Matt Austin, by the way.
I'm Lisa Bell, filling in for Ginger Gadsden. She'll be back tomorrow. So she had a long weekend.
Yes,
enjoyed some R&R.
That she did. And
yes.
so the first story we're going to talk about is one that came in last night. We heard it was a stabbing, and then today these details started trickling in that showed just a crazy story.
There was a huge law enforcement presence in Orange County last night on Lee Road near Addison, which is just a couple blocks west of I-4, just to give people an idea of where this is. We were hearing from neighbors. They saw the helicopter out there, so we knew something serious had taken place. Well, we are learning more details about what exactly happened today. The Orange County Sheriff's Office is telling us a licensed mental health counselor and a client who she was helping out last night were both stabbed in her office by a former patient. And that former patient, then we understand, apparently took his own life. Now, that stabbing shut down busy road last night, big police presence. We sent our Orange County community correspondent, Tylisa Hampton, back out to the scene today to get some more details and talk to people who live in the area. Here's what she found out.
A scene I've never seen before, as a big crime scene, big crime scene.
Monday night, a swarm of patrol cars flooded Lee Road near Addison Street with caution tape around this building. Those living around the corner still shaken.
It's horrific.
Orange County Sheriff's Office says 44-year-old Rebecca White, a licensed mental health counselor, died after being stabbed multiple times at her office when she was confronted by her former client, Michael Smith. The second victim, a man in his 30s, is in critical condition. He told police he had just finished with his therapy session and was stabbed trying to call 911. Hours after the stabbing the next morning, authorities say deputies found Smith's body about 30 minutes away from the scene on Windy Ridge Road, believing he died by suicide. For those living close by, it has them rethinking their safety.
Nothing but a tragic story in many, many different ways, from the mental illness of the patient to the one that was there that witnessed it.
And try to call 911.
Yeah. And it's horrific, really.
It is horrific, and your heart goes out to those victims. I know in the coming days we're probably going to be learning a lot more about that mental health counselor, who she was exactly. We understand she's a 44-year-old woman. We'll likely learn more about her family and friends, as well as the other victim in this case.
Yeah, Tylisa was out there as one of her current clients came out and was just devastated.
I imagine
couldn't even
so,
believe it. Saw it on the news, came out and said, I cannot believe this happened. I don't know about you, but just the fact that we see all the headlines, doesn't it feel like there's a real weight on the mental health of people right now? We've had several stories of just a few. This one seems more personal, but we've had a few random stories. In Ocala, a man was just executed while he was gardening in his front yard by somebody who seemed to be possibly having some mental health issues.
Osceola County.
County, we had three people get shot. They're fixing a car out and some random person comes. It just seems
randomly shoots them.
Yes. It's just like in the last couple of weeks, it seems like there's a real weight on the mental health.
You wonder what that is. We often hear about a lot of situations like that, people in crisis around the holidays, but we are now past the holidays. All of this happening in the first few weeks of January. So, I don't know. But I agree with you. It does seem like we have had a lot of stories like this lately.
Yeah. Heavy times, and I'm sure we'll learn more about the relationship between that therapist and this former client and what the details are with that. Another odd story coming in today. We're still trying to really hammer out what exactly is going on. Some folks got in contact with us. This is a neighborhood this is Paramore neighborhood, and they said something's going on. There's this big police presence.
See the activity.
You ever see that at a neighbor's house? There's a lot of stuff going on, but this had some extra things that really caught our attention. There was all sorts of unmarked vehicles there. Seemed like they had dogs out. And the Florida Gulf Coast University Human Identity and Trauma Analysis truck was out there. We go to a lot of crime scenes. That is not something we often see. So our Orange County community correspondent, Jana Manohalal, went out there to try to figure out, maybe get some clues as to what's happening and talk to some neighbors.
Throughout the day, we saw undercover units, canines, and even a Florida Gulf Coast University human identity and trauma analysis team out here. Right now, we have no confirmed response as to why the FGCU unit was out here, and OPD teams just left not too long ago at about 4:30 on Tuesday afternoon. There was definitely more activity in the back of the house rather than the front, and Orlando police and the FGCU team were out here digging in the backyard using sifters and pulling items back. As of right now, we don't know what evidence the department were looking for. Orlando police will only tell us they were conducting a search warrant here at 722 South Lee Avenue in reference to an ongoing investigation. When we first arrived, crews were working inside the house taking pictures, and the teams were using multiple yellow and pink evidence flags to focus on where they wanted to dig. When we got here, there were definitely more undercover units than marked units, and neighbors have been outside all day and continue to be outside watching the house. One neighbor, who is a UCF student, said he felt so uncomfortable coming outside at 7 o'clock this morning because the police presence was so heavy.
I actually live right down the street. I don't know what's going on. This is actually super surprising. Yellow tape. I did not think I'd ever see yellow tape around this house.
All right, so yeah, you see a scene like that outside your front door, and it is going to spark a lot of questions and concerns. And so to your point, we received an email from someone who said, what's going on?
Yeah, so that had us look into it, and honestly, they're not giving us a lot of information tonight. So we're hoping in the next, maybe by the 11 o'clock news, or at least by tomorrow morning, we can figure out why they were at that particular house.
They were out there for hours today.
Long time.
Yeah, with a lot of resources there, different resources.
Seemed like they were in the back of the house mostly,
but
Jana
also
said.
inside the house.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting once we hear more from law enforcement about what exactly they were doing at that location. All right. Well, it seems like election season is never ending here in Florida, and we have kind of a follow-up to an ongoing issue here in the state of Florida. Every year on the ballot, there are usually constitutional amendments that oftentimes get placed on the ballot by people collecting hundreds of thousands of signatures and getting them on the ballot. Well, the state is cracking down on people who get signatures for petitions, and arrests have been made. Attorney General James Uthmeier says the Office of Statewide Prosecution opened criminal investigations into 46 petition circulators. They were working to get signatures for adult recreational use of marijuana on the ballot. This has been an issue, by the way, that's kind of been at the forefront in Florida elections for many election cycles now. The AG's office says 9 of those so-called petition circulators have been arrested or had warrants issued, and at least 6 more are pending. The state expects more arrests in the coming weeks as several investigations near completion. The state says those circulators submitted more than 21,600 petitions, 2/3 of which raised significant concerns.
2/3?
Right.
Yeah, that's a real deal.
Yeah. Half of those 7,100 submitted petitions were verified as valid by state supervisors of elections. It's not clear where the circulators were working when they arrested or which election offices verified the signatures. We've reached out to the state for more info, but have not heard back. This is always an interesting issue because Florida is kind of an unusual state where they have these constitutional amendments that are allowed, and usually they're voter-driven issues. And it's oftentimes issues that the state legislature refuses to take up during its legislative session.
It's
which,
always,
by the way, is
issues,
happening right now. One of them was medical marijuana, which actually passed several years ago with the help of John Morgan. This is the recreational use of marijuana, something that the governor has been very much opposed to. Now, because these citizen-driven initiatives have made it to the ballot and have been successful, lawmakers have kind of created several restrictions and laws and guidelines that some would argue make it more difficult for these citizen-led initiatives to pass. And they have passed all these laws that require all of these various checks for people who go out and collect these signatures. And again, it's hundreds of thousands of signatures that are needed. And then not only that, this was another constitutional amendment that was actually put on the ballot by state lawmakers that now requires a 60% vote for any of these constitutional amendments.
Used to be 50.
Used to be
or 50 and 1 or something
but now
like
it needs, all of these constitutional amendments need 60% voter approval in order to pass. That was actually put on by state lawmakers. That law, that amendment, did not get 60% of the vote. It got like 58%
It would
of the
have not
vote.
passed
It
under
would have
these
not
current
passed.
conditions.
But because of that, and that it got passed under the old rules, now all of these constitutional amendments need 60% to become law. But it is interesting that they're cracking down specifically on this specific issue, because there are dozens of constitutional amendment proposals. They get thrown out every election cycle, or get proposed every election cycle.
I would imagine this has become a business like anything else, where people,
you're paid to go collect signatures.
You get paid to, like anything else, to go get these signatures. And the question is, how do you know that these signatures are supposed to be verified?
Absolutely.
Was it Bart Simpson? Is it, Jerome Powell? Like who, what signatures? How do you know that these are legit? Because really is a big deal to get it on the ballot. But a lot of people would say, well, if it gets on the ballot and it's
still
terrible,
has to be voted on.
People have to vote 60% to make it happen. But I don't know about you. I'm surprised at how many Floridians vote yes to change. I feel like it's a really big deal to change the Constitution.
Yeah.
A lot of these issues, like marijuana, you would think that would be an issue that lawmakers would just decide. And they would, but now
there was
people
very little support in Tallahassee to have medical marijuana available in the state of Florida. So the only way that became available was by doing a constitutional amendment.
Yeah, and so
that's where this has come about.
And it took a billionaire named John Morgan to make that happen at all. So, and to pay these petitioner companies and to hire these big ad firms to be able to make it happen. So, I don't know. It's quite the issue, and it is a thing that impacts the Constitution here.
Impacts
in Florida.
all of us.
Yeah, it really does. Well, the federal government, this impacts a lot of people. This is firing a lot of people up right now who are watching the national news happen in Minnesota and all the ICE activity taking place across America. The federal government appears to be upping its presence in Central Florida. We've noticed this. We've seen officials scoping out spots for bigger places to house detainees in Orange County. We've received numbers from Orange County about how many detainees have been in the Orange County Jail, which is a place where ICE keeps many of them. So a guy who's been really on top of this is our community correspondent, Mike Valenti, and he got some fresh numbers today, trying to make heads or tails about what exactly is going on here, because a lot of this is done in ways that we can't even cover. We're not seeing these raids or watching them take place. So here's Mike with an update on that.
One county spokesperson told me Friday that, to give us perspective, quote, there have been a significant number of rebookings, end quote. On January 9th, there were 71 inmates booked with immigration holds, with 7 of them also facing local charges. 1 week later, the 16th, that number was up to 377 inmates with immigration holds, 191 of them also facing underlying local charges.
I'm just disturbed by what's happening in our world.
In Central Florida, ICE's presence alone has sparked protests.
I think it's time to make a stand.
Here in Kissimmee Tuesday morning, you've got a modest protest off John Young Parkway, about 24 people voicing their criticism of ICE, and then just steps away, one counter-protester who keeps saying, let ICE do their job. I think he's echoing a sentiment you hear from people who disagree with you, who say that ICE is just enforcing the law. What do you say to that argument?
I think that if we would talk to some of our other law enforcement officers, we would see this is not how we enforce the law in America.
I think there is a role for immigration, just it needs to be not mass sweeps.
So, man, this has become a very controversial issue, and clearly from the numbers Mike's getting, it is happening.
Seems like it's becoming
of people are being
a bigger
arrested.
issue here in Central
and
Florida.
They're being detained at Orange County. It doesn't necessarily mean they were arrested in Orange County. They could be being shipped in from other places, but that's still a big number just since the beginning of the year. The year just started.
All right. I know we've all used, right, Uber or Lyft before, but
Yes.
how would you feel about hopping into a driverless taxi? Like just this car, this
Waymo.
empty car pulls up.
It's just a steering
No
wheel.
one's in it.
There's nobody there.
You hop
playing
in,
their music.
you hope that you're going to go wherever you want to go and that it will take you there safely. You good with that?
I'll be good with it in a couple of years.
Okay, well, you have some time, I guess, but driverless taxis are coming to Orlando. You may have spotted some already on the roads in recent weeks. So we sent News 6's Troy Campbell out to see what exactly is happening with them and what you can expect. Here's his report.
It's important because there isn't a driver in the car, and so we want to make sure people aren't calling 911.
Orlando Commissioner Shan Rose says if you see one of these driverless vehicles on the roadway, don't be alarmed. She adds commercial service could begin as early as March.
I think people are scared, and I think that's just change. You know, the unknown. How will it impact our community, both good and bad?
In November, Waymo announced its plans to launch in Orlando after rolling out in Miami. In a statement, the company said because of its self-driving service, all of our riders experience consistent, high-quality service with the highest safety standards. The data demonstrates the Waymo driver is improving road safety in the cities we serve, including involvement in 11 times fewer serious injury collisions compared to human drivers. The driverless service hasn't gone flawlessly. Last month, this video was taken in San Francisco after a driverless Waymo stopped in traffic during what the city called a widespread power outage. A few weeks before that, this video was taken in Austin, Texas, showing what appears to be a selfless driving Waymo vehicle passing school buses, ignoring flashing red lights and stop signs, even as kids were crossing.
I think what makes it so weird looking is the fact that it looks like a traditional car on
looks
the
like a
inside.
driver should
There's
be
like,
in there.
seats for the driver. Yeah, to your point. Maybe if they just had kind of like seats that were all facing each other, like in a big square, people might not feel as weird about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why they even have the steering wheel there.
Or
In case you
tint
need
the
to
windows,
like jump,
take over.
If you jump into the front
It makes
seat,
you feel
grab
like-
the wheel.
Yeah, that it's there for a reason.
I think you're right.
I don't know.
I would rather nothing be
Yeah,
there.
just
But-
like almost like a train car or something if it were kind of like that.
But so Troy in his story, as he should, he pointed out some moments in which Waymo did a bad job, almost hit some kids getting off a school bus. But in reality, there's a lot of humans who do that exact same stuff.
If you've ever driven near a school bus, you will see all sorts of vehicles that don't pay attention to the stop sign that comes out, the stop bar, they're speeding around it. So yeah, human drivers are not the best example in the world.
Don't you think eventually, as AI progresses and as technology increases, that the roads will be safer if we are not the ones driving
and
around?
they already are safer because of all the technology that's already in vehicles and all of the driver
better.
assistance that we already have.
We still get about 50,000 distracted driving crashes a year in the state of Florida. Okay? That's insane.
That is
the
insane.
numbers are crazy about how many crashes we have just from people not paying attention.
And when a car like that has an incident, it makes national news because it's so rare.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So good to know. And I'm interested in the technology. I think it could maybe make things better.
I think so.
All right. Well, Florida, for a time, a few months ago, we actually had worse drought conditions than California. I heard our weather people say that.
Isn't
and
that
I was
crazy?
like,
it's
wow,
weird to think about that.
That is weird. I think California's gotten a little more rain.
They've had a lot of rain
and
lately.
we are
Yeah.
in our dry season. We're pretty dry right now, in the middle of a dry season. So when people see smoke in the air, they get a little freaked out. So every year around this time, we like to send somebody out to take a look at our prescribed burn situation.
Because we get calls. Why am I smelling smoke?
Always.
Why do I see smoke?
You're driving back to your house,
Yeah.
you see it kind of in your home's direction, it freaks you out. So we sent our community correspondent, Catherine Silver, out to take a look at where that smoke is coming from right now.
Before we even got to Buck Run Road, we started to see the smoke in the distance. This is where the Florida Forest Service is fighting fire with fire, a 100-acre controlled burn that will hopefully keep a wildfire from burning out of control.
There's 28,000 acres out here.
This weekend, Lake County Fire Rescue shared this up-close look at a 1,700-acre prescribed burn. Every year, over 2 million acres are burned in this way in Florida. And every dot on this map shows you where a burn is happening right now. There are hundreds across the state, from pile burns to bigger burns.
We saw so many people talking about seeing smoke on Monday. Why was it so visible miles away?
High pressure. So high pressure is the same area that brings us the clear skies and the calm conditions and those chilly days that we've had. Well, it also brings sinking air. At this point, we are abnormally dry in the majority of Central Florida, which is not great, but it's not horrible.
And what can reduce the fire danger ahead?
These fronts that we've been getting every couple of days or so, they bring kind of misty rain, some heavier downpours at times. That's what we need. So it's no surprise that firefighters are doing their prescribed burns, because as the conditions are dry now, this is the opportunity before wildfire season starts to kind of take that proactive approach in protecting not only, our wooded areas, but also the neighborhood surrounding them.
So there you have it. That's the prescribed burn situation. No need to freak out at all if you see some of that smoke coming into the air. It's pretty normal, but it's just one of those situations we have to deal with.
That's right. And we'll blink, and before you know it, we'll be back into our rainy season.
Yeah, and you won't be able to set anything on fire,
That's
hopefully,
right.
because
Yeah.
it's going to rain every day. Hey, thank you for joining us here for News 6 at 9 o'clock. My name is Matt Austin. Lisa Bell, thanks for joining me, filling in for
It was
Ginger.
fun.
We'll be back here tomorrow night at the same time. Have yourself a great one.
Good night.